everyone, I'm going to show you how to do honeycomb smocking today. I've got a sample here. So what we're going to be creating gives a nice stretch, nice diamond effect. So I'm going to play with a video so you can learn how to do it. So we're going to start off, I've got a piece of fabric, just a bit bigger than an A4 piece of paper, and I've done a 12 by 6 inch grid. I've drawn it on in pencil, just for the purposes of this video, just so that you can see what I'm doing. On your actual fabric, you're going to need to do it in tailors chalk or dissolvable ink, so that you're not going to see it on the other side of your fabric, especially if you're using a more sheer fabric. So what we're doing is we're going to mark on every corner of the squares with I'm going to use dissolvable ink for this, just so that I can show you what we're doing. Feel free to do that on your samples. And this is just going to tell you exactly where you need to sew through. It's going to keep everything nice and neat and keep all the lines straight. Right, okay. So can you see I have dotted on every single corner point all the way along the sample. So we're going to start off with just a bit of thread. This is going to be just a tacking stitch really, so it doesn't need to be the right colour or anything, because you are going to pull it out at the end. So you want to measure it to just a little bit past the length of your fabric, and that should be enough. And we're going to do a very, very simple in and out stitch. So you should make just a little tacking stitch just to fix the stitch line when you begin. So that'll just keep it nice and taut there. And then we are just going to go in and out of every single square. I'm sorry for the angle, I'm going to have to show you here. So point to point, in and out, do that all the way along. And then when you're pulling it out, you're just going to let the last bit of thread just dangle out of what is my right hand side. So can you see I've just got a nice in and out stitch line using the grid as a guide. Then you're basically going to do that on every single line, making sure that you follow the same pattern of in and out rather than going the opposite way. Okay, so we've now got our in and out tacking stitches running all the way along with all the dangling threads on one side. So the next stage is to, just like you would with gathers, just to pull on those threads, maybe only do 2 to 3 at a time, and then it'll create some pleats. Let me try and flip this around to show. So you pull it in right to the other side, can you see? And then we just continue to do that down all the stitch lines until we have a fully pleated piece of fabric. The good thing about this technique is that you don't have to do the same dimensions that I did. I did 12 by 6 inches using inch squares. You can do ½ inch squares, centimetre squares, however complex and detailed you want to make it, or however simple, is totally up to you. So we now have this lovely piece of fabric. As you can see, it was the size of some paper, and now it's tiny. So you're going to need a lot of fabric if you want to do this as a technique. So we've got them all pulled in. And now is the time for the actual stitching. So you can either use a thread that matches your actual fabric if you want it to be invisible, or you could use a nice brightly coloured thread, make it a design feature. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to do a brightly coloured thread. So I've got a nice pink here. that I'm going to use to sew in the honeycomb pattern, just so that you can all see the process. So we're just going to cut a length off and thread the needle. And so what we do now is we're going to be pinching these pleats together. So we need to come up through the back of the first pleat. You can work left to right, right to left, whatever way works for you. I'm left-handed, so I'll be going left to right. So I'll be coming up through the first pleat with my needle, and then just keeping an eye on the back to make sure that the thread doesn't come through. And then I'm going to be pinching together these two pleats here. So I'm just going to do a little fixing stitch, keeping on the lines of the grid that you've created. That'll keep everything nice and straight and how it's meant to be looking. So I'll do maybe 3 to 4 stitches, just looping it around, grasping each pleat. So then you're going to cut that. Once you've done that little stitch, you are going to cut the thread so that everything is kept really neat and there's no loose threads hanging around. So I will just show you. So we have here the first pleat pinched with a nice bright pink. So then the next stage is to go and do the next two. So we're creating the start of a diamond shape. So it will need to be pinched like that. Okay. Okay, so we have the first row complete of our sample. So you see here, and so then the next stage we go down an inch, which is the inches that you've marked on your grid, and then rather than pinching the same ones, we pinch alternate ones like this. So can you see how that makes, it looks like a little M there. Pinch them two and then pinch them two, and it's going to start to create the first triangle of a diamond. So we've now done the second part. So now it's just a process of repeating what we've done. So we'll go the next line down and then we'll pinch these two. And then that'll start to create the diamond. These two. Yeah? And then we just keep on going until the end. Okay, so I'm finished. I've got all my little pink knots in there. So this is now the fun bit to finish it off. So we get to pull out all of the black threads. So you can just pull and rip them if you haven't got precious fabric that you're worried about. Right, and then we get that. So you can pull this open, you can press it, you could press it flat, you can just leave it like that and it'll look really, really lovely down some sleeves. It's very historical on a corset, on a blouse, on a dress. You could even embellish it further. I've seen lovely images where people have placed like little pearls and beads inside the little honeycomb pockets. So yeah, honeycomb smocking.